This is David with a tutorial on Pads Designer. What I'm going to be doing today is looking at some of the basic features within the Pads Designer, also to show how that you can either put a PDF on, which I don't really recommend, and also how to put in pictures into presentations. So first of all, as you can see on the screen just now, I've actually got the undergraduate presentation, and this is their sort of main screen. And if you can use the scroll bars to scroll around. Annoyingly, in this you can't actually zoom in and out, so you can see the whole page in a oneer, which is a bit of a downfall of the software. Anyway, to open the file, all I did was File and Open, and then browse to the .pads file. You can't actually go into the S drive double click on a pads file because it doesn't know which program to associate it with, so you always have to open the Pads Designer software first before you can open the program. So what you want to do is, if you want to have a look at all the screens, go View and just do All Pages. This is from one of the old designs, and what happened was the image has been taken off, but the pages have been left up. So actually, in this case, it just shows white screens for all the empty ones. A few things you can do here is you can actually, within this whole presentation, you can see the timing of each page. So if you right click on it and do Page Properties, it tells you here that this main page is going to be on for 5 minutes. With contrast, you can check out this is on for 30 seconds, and the screensaver, which you should leave in just in case there's nothing else, that's just on for 10 seconds so that to avoid the screen getting burning. So I think what we'll do is we'll actually remove all these pages. Right click on that and hit remove page. Remove page. In fact, I'll hold down the Shift key and I can highlight all three, then right click and do remove page. Okay, so what we've got is you've got the main page here and the screensaver here. You want to add a new page, click on new page, and what that does is it brings you in a new page, but it copies the master page. Now when you do view, it doesn't always show you, well in this case the master page is the main page, but if you go to view and then master page, this is the master page. You shouldn't really go into the master page because this is where you can delete stuff that you shouldn't be deleting. So for example, you could delete these bits here, which would mean that you couldn't put in ad hoc words or things like that, or you could accidentally delete the time. You can see how I can highlight the date up here and the time. You can delete that. So really you don't want to be going into the master page. If you go back to all pages, and you can see if I double click on this, it doesn't let me highlight the bits from the master page so that they can't be deleted. Okay, so let's go back to view all pages. Now we've brought in this other page and right click on it and do page properties. If you go to style, what you want to do is you don't want to apply the master page and hit the apply button. So you've unticked the master page, and there's also a visible button as well. I could have actually just hidden those other pages by going like that and apply, and I would have skipped the page, but we'll leave it as it is just now. Okay, now the most important thing that you've got to remember when you're doing the designer, and this will be the case for probably 99% of the things that are going up on the big screens, is the resolution. What I mean by the resolution is horizontally along the screen here, there's a 1920 pixels, so that's 1920. So 1920 tiny little dots between this end and this end. And from the bottom to the top, there's 1080. So you've probably heard of 1920 by 1080. People talk about Full HD. That's the resolution that Full HD is, 1920 by 1080. So what's important is all your screens are that resolution. So ideally what you want is you want your images that you are trying to put on to be that same size, and that will save you having to do any editing or sort of having to play around with the image, because the last thing you want to do really is to sort of stretch the images because it just makes them look really bad, and the writing goes all funny, and it just doesn't really look that professional. So I think I've got prepared a few examples. So we'll bring up page 3. Now page 3 at the moment you can see all the wee dots. This is actually just a blank page. Now as this template is already 1920 by 1080, that's the size of this page that we've got just now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to insert a picture. So you can see over here there's a wee picture symbol. Let's left click on that. And what you need to do to start with is just draw a square anywhere. Just here is fine. So you've got this dull grey square that you can barely see. Right click on that and you want to go to picture properties. Okay. So first thing you want to do, and this is assuming that your picture is 1920 by 1080. First of all you want to make sure it goes right in the very top left corner. So you want to put the position, horizontal and vertical, to 0. So I do 0 and 0 and click apply. You can see that's gone right up to that top corner. And what you want to do now is 1920 and the height by 1080. Okay, and we'll click apply. Now you can't see any dots anymore because this picture size, this grey holding picture, is filled the whole screen. What we need to do now, click apply after every time, is go to the playlist. Now this is quite handy because you might actually have multiple pictures that you want to play, say each for 5 seconds or so. So you go to the playlist. I'm just going to put in one picture just now. Now you should always store pictures. I'm just using this as an example of my E drive, but all your pictures have to be stored in the S drive in the display screens, and within your own groups or undergraduate, postgraduate, you should have there a folder just called pictures or something like that. And the best thing to do with the pictures is to name them starting with the date, and that means that when you sort them you can easily see which ones are old pictures and then you can delete, because otherwise you end up with loads and loads of pictures and the folders become unmanageable. Okay, so as you can see, actually something's happened to my image, and it should have been 1920 by 1080, but it's a lot more than that. It's 3840 by 2160. Now it's not going to be too much of a problem if your image is larger, as long as it's the same aspect ratio, which is 16 by 9. So that's 16 horizontally by 9 vertically, which this is. So the only problem is if you have really tiny images, and say it was 192 by 108, which should be the same aspect ratio, but the problem is it's going to be so tiny that if you try to make that picture bigger, it's going to get so pixelated that it's going to be unusable. So we're actually going to reduce the size of this picture, which is okay. If I click OK, it's actually showing up perfectly in the 1920 by 1080 space. Now that is because if I go to General in the picture properties, I've set the size manually to 1920 by 1080. Okay. What I've also picked is stretched. Now stretched is a bit of a misnomer. Stretched can also mean squashed. It basically is going to try and fit the picture into this size that you specified up here. But I've also clicked to maintain aspect ratio. What I'm going to do now is actually click on original size. Gives you a picture preview, but it's pretty useless to be honest with you. I'm going to click apply now, and now the picture is going to go massive because it's actually 4 times the actual. Let me just click OK there. It's actually about 4 times 1920 by 1080. So we'll put that back to stretched and click apply. OK, and as you can see, the circles are round and they're actually taking up the full space of the 1920 by 1080 background that we had prepared. I'm actually going to delete that picture, so I just clicked on the picture and hit the delete button. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another picture that's actually of a 4 by 3 aspect ratio. I'm going to insert picture again. I'm going to draw a wee square. Okay, so what we're going to do, click on picture properties. This is a new picture. What I'm going to do is I'm bringing in this picture that's a 4 by 3 aspect ratio. So what I want to do is I want to maintain aspect ratio. Excuse me. I'm going to put in 1920 by 1080. That's simply because that is the full size of the background sheet. Now what will happen now is I've done stretch, so whether it's bigger or smaller, what it will do is it will try and best fit the picture within 1920 by 1080 size, but keep the aspect ratio. If I untick that, it would completely stretch the picture out, and I'll show you that in a second. So what I'm going to do is go to playlist, add, and here's 1280 by 1024. So I'm going to open that, get rid of that preview because it's annoying, click apply. Okay. Now this is off the bottom, that's because I didn't set the top of it. I can either drag that up, and if I just pop that on the top line there, you can actually see that it's stretched as far as it can vertically, but horizontally it's not stretched it to either side. That's because you've told it to keep the same aspect ratio. If I go back to picture properties and I go to general again and untick maintain aspect ratio, I've said 1920 by 1080, which is the full sheet. I click apply, and look, it's completely stretched it. Again, because we've not changed the points of it, that's why it's not in the corner. But if I put this into the corners and click apply, there you go. Now it's filled the screen, but it looks funny. You can see, look, the circles are gone, the text sort of stretched across, and depending on what text you use, this can actually look really bad or be quite unreadable. So we don't want that. Now, occasionally you might get a picture of this that is this size. I tend to send it back to people. If people give you stuff, tell them you want it in 1920 by 1080 as a JPEG or a PNG, which are both picture files. But I'm going to quickly show you how to sort this so it doesn't look too bad. Okay, so I'm going to click maintain aspect ratio again, and click apply, and then that'll be okay. Now what I'm going to show you how to do now is how to create a background to merge in with this picture, and also what we need to do as well is get your picture centered. Now you can go into page properties here and set a background color in style, and just pick a color. I think the difficulty is then you have to start working out the pixels. You can't really align this very easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to insert a shape, and it's going to be a square shape like that. Now that comes up blue. So first thing I want to do is right click on it, shape properties. I want to push it into the corner, so 0 and 0, 1920 by 1080. Okay, and you can call the shape whatever you want. For adverts and stuff, you might want to name them, something that means something to you. So there you go. So now this big blue box is covered everything, including your advert. So you want to left click that. You can see the wee black dots have come up. Say that's been clicked. So left click on your picture, then right click, undo order, and do send to back. There you go. So that means that now this is behind your picture. It's the wrong shape. Now you could kind of try and guess where that's to go, but it's quite difficult. So what you want to do is pop up make sure it's up on the top line, so you got the top and bottom are okay. Either by doing it manually or by right clicking picture properties and just making sure the vertical is 0. You can do it mathematically because you can see the size of the image, you can see the size of the whole thing, and you can sort of subtract the pixel sizes. But the easiest way to do this, and this is much easier, is left click on your picture. You can see you've got the wee bars around there. Hold down the shift key, left click on the on the box that is your background, and you can see that's been highlighted as well. And then if you go up to here, align centers. There we go. Now what that's done is that's actually popped that picture into the center. And there you go, easy as that. Right, now what you should save it as is the date that you want it to finish on. If you're adding a presentation, so say tomorrow, so 120213 test 1. That means that when I come to sort this, I'm going to be able to see it in order. So I'll pop that onto S drive, display screens, and I'll just pop into PAS demo there. Okay, save that. That's it. If you go to now view all pages, you can see here's your third page now. You can right click on that, do page properties, and now you can see that's playing for 30 seconds. You can increase it or decrease it as you need to. If you remember, if you just double click on that page, if you remember, right click on that, do page properties. In the playlist, you can add as many pictures as you want. What's really important though is that your pictures are ideally the same aspect ratio, because obviously if you've got pictures of all different sizes, they're going to be appearing in the screen all differently. So again, that's why it's kind of important to make sure that people are giving them to you in the right resolution to start with and the right aspect ratio. To insert a PDF document, it's exactly the same. You just clicked on the Adobe PDF image, and then you draw the square here, right click on it, do properties, browse to a document. Here we go, I've got one here, legalissues.pdf. Okay, I'm going to click apply. Okay. Now, as you can see, it's just made a box to show this, so it's pretty messy. You can pull and stretch this as you need to. You can see that obviously this actual presentation is in widescreen. It's also it's kind of the same aspect ratio as this. So what you can do is actually just make that as small as you can. In fact, if you right click, do properties, again you can do 0, 0, 1920 and 1080. Let's see how this turns out. There we go. Okay, and do OK. So that's actually filled your screen pretty well. This is actually a PowerPoint that I've exported to a PDF, and you can see that when I've actually exported it into PDF, the PDF doesn't support everything that PowerPoint has, and that's why this is gone a bit funny, because I think I used a bit of smart art there. But to be honest with you, like I say, I know I said it like about 4 times before, stick to PNGs, JPEGs, 1920 by 1080, just to make your life easy. Okay, thanks for watching, bye.